Gaudete, gaudete, Christus es natus, ex Maria Virgine, gaudete.
So welcome to another episode of the Rediscovery channel, where each week we try to revisit something from history that the other person may or may not have heard of. This week it's just me, Stilger, and my good friend Ivor. And Ivor, this week I want to ask you about somebody called Adam Weishaupt. Have you ever heard of him?
Um, yeah, I think you mentioned him last time. I didn't look him up because I couldn't guess at how to spell his name. So I still don't know anything. Yeah.
Great. Perfect. So this episode will be about Mr. Johann Adam Weishaupt, which is basically it's like Weiss, it's like white, and Haupt is like head, so white head, which was an 18th century German thinker. And he is credited as the official person that started an organization with a Latin name for light. Guess what the organization is?
A Latin name for light.
Yeah.
I don't. Is it the? I don't know. I don't want to try to guess.
Okay. It's the Illuminati. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I always thought that it was just something that the Illuminati was. Yeah, maybe it was real, but I thought it was something from the movies. Conspiracy theorist is a word that you often hear when you talk about the Illuminati. And I was surprised to find out that there was actually an official Illuminati movement back in the 18th century, and starting in Bavaria, which is the southern part of Germany, right at the Austrian border. Um, and it was started by this Mr. Weishaupt. He was born in 1748 in Ingolstadt. Um, and he was a descendant of Jewish converts to Christianity. Orphaned at a young age, he was taken under the wing of his uncle, who was much enamored by Enlightenment, but he was enrolled in a Jesuit school. I don't know if you know much about the Jesuits. Do you or?
Yeah, I've heard stuff about them, and I know that it's like some kind of special order within the Catholic Church. I've never heard anything good about those people ever. But
Me neither. And actually, I would like to learn more about them because what I learned about them is all coming from reading Dostoevsky, who had a strong disdain towards Jesuits. And I would like to know more about why and what the reason is behind this. Um,
I think
and by
there's
the
some
way,
violence that they engaged in.
I think he accused them of being taking God out of the equation, and just focusing on the church alone. I think that may have been the reason, but I haven't read Dostoevsky in a while. But anyway, he hated them with a passion, and same as the Masons, by the way, and the Freemasons, which also play a role in this. But let's go back a little bit to Mr. Weishaupt. He was a Jesuit, and then after completing his studies, he became a professor of natural and canon law at the University of Ingolstadt. Got married, and he started a family. And here he was the only professor who wasn't a part of the clergy. And at this time, Bavaria was still, I would say, it is. You can still notice it today, but it was an extremely Catholic state. And Yeah, Mr. Weishaupt, he was getting more and more enamored by the ideas of the so-called Enlightenment, and we've done an episode about the Enlightenment before, and some of the havoc it created in France, and the ultimate destruction of many of good people there, and culture as well. And I still believe to this day that the so-called Enlightenment is actually the root of a lot of the darkness and evil that we have in our culture today. But anyway, that's a different discussion. Um, but he started to join the Freemasons, and he liked them. He was interested in them, but he wanted to do something more, something else, and he he yeah. So he had a restless mind, and reading about the French Enlightenments. He wanted to get rid, basically, of the monarchy and the church, and he thought that religious ideas were no longer like and they no longer had a place in civilization, and he wanted to find this new form of illumination, which is how you get this. So the Enlightenment, illumination, Illuminati. So that's how you get to the name nowadays. And in this time, there was a lot of Freemasonry expanding, offering alternatives to people that were enamored by this Enlightenment ideas of the Enlightenment. And what he did is he kind of took the Jesuit structure of very strict order, top down, with four of his other friends, and he started to bring in other esoteric themes, like the mysteries of the seven sages of Memphis. Have you ever heard of those, by the way?
Uh, no, no, I haven't. But actually, though, it kind of sounds like that almost sounds like something from China. But I guess if it's Memphis, then it's got to be Greece, right?
I think it has to do with the Sumerians, actually. So it's something.
Memphis. Hold on.
Yeah. So I looked into it a little bit, but it almost looks like, well, actually, it looks like it could be a whole another topic, where it's these Sumerian gods that came from the sea, and basically told or taught the Sumerians everything about culture. And they look like, some of them look like lizard people, which is
That the
interesting.
Anunnaki, I think, according to, if you're talking about Sumerian legends, the Anunnaki were the ones that supposedly gave them the rudiments of their civilization.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I
Yeah.
didn't think they were lizard people, but
Well,
uh,
one of them look. I was just looking at it. One of them looks like a bird, some kind of half bird, half human. Um, so anyway,
a lot of gods like that have animal and human aspects
yeah.
put together, basically the furries of the ancient world.
Well, I don't know about that, but um,
Anthropomorphs.
but he was also, so he was into this esoteric kind of things. Also the Kabbalah, which of course are still a large thing today, and Kabbalah, I think, would also be another topic altogether, because it has a huge influence on our modern culture still today, with people like Madonna and stuff that are really into the Kabbalah, and other. Britney Spears, I think, was also one of the proponents. But anyway, so Adam Weishaupt started this secret society, and basically the idea was that, well, it's a conspiracy. It was a conspiracy. It wasn't a theory. It was a fact. It was a conspiracy to overthrow the current status of the powers that be, and to replace the church, and to replace God, I would say, into a society where man was free, whatever that was. But ironically, the freedom was to be attained by having this strictly hierarchical organization. First, there were 3 hierarchies, and later on, there were even 13. Um, and in order to get rid of the superstitions of religion, this new esoteric religion was created, just like in the Enlightenment, where there were all these rituals involved that you had to go through in order to pass higher levels of Minerval. So the owl was the owl of Minerva from Athena, symbolizing wisdom, played an important role. And they would, yeah, basically they would write down secrets about each other, and they would share them. And anyway, it was a very strange kind of secret society, and there is some fantasy, or it's sometimes hard to see what is fantasy and what is real. For example, there's like the blood sacrifice, where an animal had to be killed and bleeding to death on top of a human to sacrifice to symbolize that they're newly born within the society or the Illuminati. And there's like all these other various types of rituals that you'd have to go through in order to get all the way to the top.
So much for abolishing the superstition of religion.
Yeah, exactly. So it started. The first meeting was on the night of May 1st, 1776, and the first Illuminati met in a forest near Ingolstadt, and they were gathered using torches, and there they established the rules that were given to govern the order. And all future candidates, they required the members' consent, and then they were looking for people with a strong reputation, with well-established familial social connections, and of course wealth, because their idea was, of course, to get together and to try and influence politics in society. And they had this plan that wasn't like, yeah, the idea was it wasn't something they would see completed in their lifetime, but rather something that could take 200 years or longer for them to reach their goals. So first they had the 3 levels: novices, minervals, and illuminated minervals. So that's about the Roman goddess of wisdom, Minerva. Talking about the so-called aim of them to spread true knowledge, illumination about how society and the state might be reshaped. So the first year, actually, they didn't grow that much. They got up to about again 600 people, and then Adam Weishaupt also started recruiting people within the Freemasonry, and he got some powerful people like Baron Adolf von Nigge, who, yeah, basically added as worked as an incendiary for the development of the ideology behind it, but also the recruitment. And in the end, the Illuminati had about 2,000 to 3,000 members. And yeah, so they were spread around France, Italy, but also Austria, England, and even the United States. So in the end, they ended up with these 13 degrees of initiation. And the top one is the king one, I think. So I have a list here somewhere. I might have to look at it. So yeah, they were starting to get more and more powerful, but the powers that were some of the local royals became suspicious, and um, they were made aware of what was happening, and because of that, the basically it was made illegal to be part of any secret society. And later on in Bavaria, it was, and in all of Germany, it was illegal to be part of the Illuminati specifically. Um, and if you were to break that, then you would basically be put to death. Um,
I have no
and
problem with this.
yeah, so yeah, so there was a general prohibition, um, banning the whole order. And Adam Weishaupt, though he lost his post at the University of Ingolstadt, and was banished, but he was able to get out and live in Saxony, and he was protected by a baron there as well, where he was able to teach philosophy at the University of Göttingen till the end of his days. Um, and yeah, this is basically, so this is the foundation of the Illuminati. And, a lot of people say, well, this is historically where it ended. Although, of course, there are still many references in modern culture. You have Dan Brown's Angels and Demons. You have, of course, you have everything in Hollywood around it, several movies that have been done around the Illuminati. There are theories around the dollar bill, for example. And I think there are also 13 stars on the $1 bill, and there's 13 levels within the Illuminati. And the all-seeing eye is also part of the Freemasonry sign, which is also on the dollar bill. And it still has its echoes today in many other secret orders, some of which still exist. Like, for
So,
example,
Stilgar, the
yeah,
pyramid on the dollar that's
yeah,
got like the little eye on it,
yeah,
there's 13 levels to the pyramid, and
yeah,
then there's the eye. Now, whenever there's an eye inside of a triangle, depending on which eye, like if it's a left eye inside of a triangle, then what I heard is that it symbolizes Satan. But if it's a right eye inside of a triangle, then and I heard that the right eye symbolizes God. And also where the pyramid is on the dollar, it says New World Order, like straight there in Latin, Novus Ordo Seclorum. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely something suspicious going on there. I've always felt kind of, um, like people complain about how it says in God we trust on our money, but then there's also this other like unclean kind of satanic stuff on there, which those same people don't complain about. Somehow it gets a lot less attention. So.
yeah, yeah. And there's one of the offshoots is also the Skull and Bones Order at Yale, which was a direct offshoot of the Illuminati as well, which is still very much active today. And it's a highly secretive society, which yeah, which has links, like, members like George Bush, John Kerry. At one point, it was John Kerry versus George Bush for the next
Yep.
president, and they were both Skull and Bones members.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have these secretive rites, and a lot of it is like highly ritualistic. And supposedly, right, this is the enlightened folks, but they also share secrets in diaries, and that's how they basically keep tabs on each other and make sure that even though we live in a hyper connected world, there's still a lot of things we don't know about these organizations like Skull and Bones. And it also ties into, you know like sometimes they would like do things to expose them towards each other, so they would be able to blackmail each other. And I think it also, yeah, so there's like more links there with specific islands and presidents, and I won't go into details, but it's very interesting that
Somebody that
these.
didn't kill himself.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of it's very interesting that these secret societies are very much alive today, and of course we don't really talk too much about it, and it's easy to get lost in like how much of an influence because we basically we don't really know, right, what happens inside of them. But there are many of them. And there was also, I read about this Rosicrucianism, um, so which is another, which is an official organization full of esoteric beliefs as well, and which is also still, like, where was it? It was somewhere, I think it was somewhere in Denver or something, where the headquarters were. So there's a lot of stuff that's still out there today. um, and yeah, I always thought it was just something people like, oh, you know what, it's the hand, the one eye, whatever. Yeah, probably people are having fun with it as well, or just trying to be edgy. But for sure, there are still the secret societies happening. I cannot imagine that, after this, it was outlawed in what, 1784, or was it 87? Anyway, that they have gone away and that they no longer exist. To me, that seems highly unlikely.
Yeah, and there's other things around too, like the Masons, which, at least in the United States, they have a lodge in almost every like kind of city above of like decent size and greater, and the windows are always either the buildings have no windows or the windows are boarded up, and that's where they meet. And then there's usually like a pentagram on the outside, and then you have the Bilderbergs, which totally meet in secret. But then you have other things that are much more open, like the UN and the WEF, that are obviously like rich and powerful elites kind of conspiring and plotting stuff open, out in the open, just saying what they want to do. And it kind of makes me wonder, because when I was a kid, my grandmother used to talk about this kind of stuff all the time. And back then, it was easier to dismiss. It wasn't so apparent. But now, we have things like the UN and the WEF that are just like straight openly talking about how they want to do this kind of stuff. Like, and it makes me wonder, if maybe those guys that are operating out in the open are just a distraction, and the real plans is stuff that we're not even seeing. Like they might be putting those things out in the open, might be like uh, a red herring. Or, I mean, that's not to say that it's not a threat. Like it's very concerning what
Yeah,
these people
it's
are doing.
outside of the democratic
It's
processes.
it's
It's they
outside of in all these cases. You have people that are wealthy elites that are basically trying to circumvent the legal system and the democratic processes.
Yeah, what I also find interesting is that they have this strictly hierarchical organization, which is completely secretive and has its own agenda that is not known to the outside world. And they're trying to overthrow the powers that be. And it's kind of like the idea of, like, before there was like the church, and God was in control, or at least the church was in control,
Mhm.
and now they're replacing it with power and money. And they're somehow, this is supposed to be enlightened, where what exactly are they enlightening? Like, what
They
is the high ideal? It seems to be money and power. Is that really that forward thinking? It seems kind of ancient to me. Seems like nothing new under the sun, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
it's definitely, I would say, yeah, it's definitely the case where it's hard to say that. I mean, if people aggrandizing themselves, like, we wouldn't say that they're enlightened. and it's just at best, like the best way, the most optimistic, generous way you can view these people is that they want power, and that's their objective. I think they also, I think they want power, but they also want to. There's some darker stuff going on, like they want to change the world, and make things normal that otherwise would never be. Yeah, I mean, they don't want people to scrutinize them or, I guess, be able to talk bad about them. So
Yeah,
it's kind of hard for me to understand. I don't understand the personality type because like I couldn't care less what other people are doing as long as it doesn't affect me. Like I don't have to agree with everything that everybody does. Like we can coexist as long as you're not trying to do anything to me and I'm not trying to do anything to you. But these kind of people, they don't seem to be satisfied with either coexistence or with just being wealthy. Like it's
no, but I think there's probably a lot of people that are part of these organizations that are attracted because of the wealth and because of the power. That's also why the original Illuminati, they tried to get young people because they would be like more open to these ideas. I think there were only people under 30 that could join. And they were trying to get people that were extremely wealthy and extremely well connected, because that's how they try to bring in other people that are also seeking wealth. Like if I was somebody living in the States and I was like, well, like I grew up maybe lower middle class, but I want to be rich. That's what I want more than anything. um, I would probably join a Freemason lodge as well, even if I didn't believe in any of that stuff, just because it would be an opportunity to connect with people that are well off and powerful.
Yeah,
So I
social
think that's
networking.
yeah, that's how they try to get people in, and then basically sell their soul, I guess, to some, maybe not literally, but
Or
at
maybe
least,
literally.
yeah, I don't know, but anyway, at least in
Pro-
the allegorical sense, to focus on that. That's what you have to do. You have to go through these rituals. You have to go through the motions in order to become part of the club. So yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. I think we should do an episode sometime on the Jesuits as well, and some of these other groups. So I don't want to put the Jesuits in there with this, and I don't know if that's fair, but I think it would be interesting to have a closer look at where they're coming from.
yeah,
Um,
it would
yeah.
be interesting to talk about some of the different orders that are inside the Catholic Church. Like I don't think you weren't here for it, but the last video that I recorded with Great Pharaoh, like I always thought that the Catholics, they had monks and they had nuns, but apparently there's like a few different orders of monks and nuns that were started by different guys. Like there's the Benedictine order that was started by Benedict, and then there's the one that we talked about in our last video, which you weren't here, but the Franciscan order. And they have like different uniforms that they wear, and it's all this stuff, or most of this stuff, happened before the Protestant Reformation. So there wasn't really the option to start a new denomination or a new church in medieval Europe. So when somebody wanted to start a movement, it was just like almost like a new department was kind of opened up inside the church. And I don't know much about the Jesuits. I've just heard bad things about them anecdotally. So yeah, that would be a good topic for sure for us to do, I think.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, I know about the Franciscans. And by the way, I was in Paris this weekend. I saw two monks um, wearing a habit, or whatever you call it, a bite in Dutch.
I would just wear that stuff because it looks cool. Like I have
Yeah,
no
they
interest to
were pretty
join.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I like their. It kind of looks I think the Franciscan, it kind of looks similar to something that people wear in Morocco. This robes, a little bit similar. to
Yeah, I saw them. I was like, what is it? And then I saw they had red crosses on there. I'm pretty sure they were Franciscan or something like that.
If it's, I think Franciscans will wear brown.
Oh,
That's-
these were white or whitish, beigeish. Yeah.
Yeah, that could, maybe so. Maybe that could also be.
Was
Yeah.
a nice change from the other people that
Other types
especially
of people.
yeah that are way more predominant nowadays, especially around Gare du Nord, which is like the main train station there. It feels more like you're in like northern Africa, but anyway.
Yeah, Franciscans normally they wear brown, and then like I think Benedictine they wear black, and there's other orders and stuff too that I don't know about. Yeah, like and also there's like the Orthodox Church. There's like each country that it exists in has kind of their own branch, their own kind of ethnicity. Each ethnicity has its own version of Orthodoxy, but there's nothing like that with Catholicism. They just add it seems like they just add new orders whenever there's somebody that wants to start something.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ivor, with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. Hope you learned something new, and thank our audience. And if you could give us a like and a share and a subscribe, we appreciate it. And with that, I want to say, hope we'll see you in the